So let's kick this off properly. So my guest is Annie, and Annie, I'm not going to lie. I looked up how to pronounce your last name because we've always just used first name, Annie. We always have. So Flanzraich.
Reich. Pretty close.
You know what? Pronounce.com had it wrong. Okay.
I also just go by Flans. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah. That's also what I knew you as. So I love it. You've got all these aliases. It's very exotic of you. So Annie is the owner of Flanzraich. She's an award-winning journalist, editor, content services, though I like to say really content wizard. We've worked with Flanzraich many times on numerous occasions. Thank you so much for the work that you do, and an absolute expert in her field. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. So tell us about you, Annie. So tell us about what you do and who you do it for.
So like you said, I am the owner of Flanzraich, and I like to tell people that what Flanzraich really does is help individuals and organizations and publications tell their stories about what matters most. So I help businesses tell stories, and individuals too, about money and housing and health and time and productivity and their careers and their families and their communities. I at my heart, I'm a storyteller, and that's where I feel like my skill set is. And so I try to help other people tell their stories well. I do that through kind of a process where first we figure out where the sweet spot is between what your business has to say and what your people want to know, and how do we communicate that effectively. And then April, you've seen me in a spreadsheet. So then I bring in, I don't remember which part of my brain the spreadsheet is. Is it the right brain or the left?
It would be your
brain?
left. Left is analytical, right creative.
All right, so I bring in the left brain, and then we put together some spreadsheets and some plans about how we're going to go at it. And then I bring in the right brain, and we bring in some creativity to make it all shine and bring it all together and engage people and have great conversations.
Yeah, and I've just got to give a shout out to your left brain. So we've worked with others in the past, and it can be difficult to incorporate both left brain and right brain. And so I'd seen the creative side of Annie, but I was and it was amazing. And then I was blown away by the way you could manage a spreadsheet, the way you could project manage something, whether that's on the podcast side, guys, or even helping with digital courses like the one that we're just about to come out with, Multiply Me. Annie was instrumental in that process, and watching how she could project management. I'm like, wait a second, how is this also your skill set? So I've just got to acknowledge that, because that part just blew me away. So thank you for your mad organization skills and your ability to keep everybody on task. So, okay, well, Annie, tell us about how you're coping, how you're managing during this time, but whether that's personally or professionally. Talk to us about what's going on during this time.
Yeah, I keep joking with people that I feel like I've lived a year in the past 3 weeks.
It's good. Yeah.
There's just been so much change, and it's happened so quickly. So as far as coping, I mean, I feel like I'm doing what everyone else is doing the best we can. And I think that's all we can hope for and expect from each other. Yeah, it's just been a lot of change. I used to work out of the Reno Collective, which I love. Huge shout out to this co-working space in Reno, Nevada, just filled with amazing, incredible entrepreneurial and creative people. But then they responsibly closed down the physical workspace, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and moved all of their community online, which has been incredible. So, we can log in every morning to have coffee on Zoom with a bunch of different people like me. So you can have that community and that sense of togetherness. We have happy hours, we have mindfulness sessions, we have education courses. It's just incredible. So big resource in coding through that. The biggest change is kind of shifting everything back to a home operation, which is how I started my business 5 years ago. So it's kind of like back to the beginning a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So how are you managing that? How are you managing the distraction? How are you managing being at home, especially since you had grown accustomed to being in an office?
I'm really fortunate. I mean, of my generation, I would say I'm #blessed to have my husband also works from home, but he worked from home for another company for about 3 years. So he's super experienced in it. And I'm just lucky that we both understand it. And I'm not a parent. I have a dog, but he is not super demanding. So I'm really fortunate right now, and I like to acknowledge that and feel grateful.
Yeah.
So yeah. The distractions, I mean, like you'd like to say, the distractions are always there. The laundry is literally 6 feet away from my office. And I like to stress clean. So there's always something that I feel like needs to be bleached, but you know.
Stress clean. I wish mine manifested that way. I stress bake. That's what I've learned in the last 3 weeks. Yeah.
If we could trade, we should.
I know, right? I was like, I think my husband would probably wish that I stress clean too, but no, baking. I was like, I just want things to feel normal and homely. And I was like, so I've made these apple turnovers and then these brownies, and I've baked more cakes in the last 2 weeks than I should in 6 months. So it's funny how we've all got our kind of go-to things. That's awesome. And what I love is I heard a lot of gratitude in there too, Annie, which is amazing. And not everybody is reaching for that right now. And I think that really needs to be riding shotgun through this experience is recognizing what we're grateful for and all the things that we have, because it's so easy to focus on what we don't have right now, or the community that we don't have, or Julie and I were just talking about focusing on all the doors that have shut. Well, there's a lot of doors that open. There's a lot of windows that are open. And maybe they don't immediately open for you. You got to pry them open a little bit. But if we spend all our time looking at the ones that close, we don't see the ones that have opened. So talk to us about what your business looks like right now. Has there been a shift in clients and business? And also talk to us about the opportunities that exist.
Absolutely. I also want to say I'm right with you on gratitude right now. I find it very grounding. So that's, I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but that's a practice that's really important to me right now.
Yeah.
So because I work with a lot of organizations on their blogs, on their websites, on their email copy, a lot of them are having to say, okay, how are we communicating right now? And the tone is so important, because I know that we've gotten messages from those companies where you've read it and you've been like, really you did that? Yeah. So, and it's almost a little bit of mind reading too, because as you're planning out content strategies, at least in my world, it's saying, okay, where are we right now? What feels right now? But what's going to feel right in a week? What's going to feel right in 2 days, let alone a week? So just really staying on top of, okay, what are we talking about, and how are we talking about it, and how does it stay both relevant and also long-standing, and finding that balance between the two.
Yeah.
So I would say the biggest shifts have really come from kind of those individual tactics that I'm working with organizations on, and trying to be as responsive as possible to our environment and the news and our global community.
Gosh, and Annie, you brought up something that is so very important for content creators out there, for businesses that are pushing out email campaigns right now. Go back and revisit the content. I think we're all experiencing that right now, where I'm getting stuff dropped into my inbox like, is it time for that new vacation? And you're like, no, it's not that time. And it feels insensitive. And again, we know as business owners that it's really just whoops, that email campaign went out and it shouldn't have. But as consumers, as people that are reading that, it can feel really insensitive. So this is a great time to go back and look at your content and maybe revisit whatever you were going to push out through social media, whatever email campaigns that you're going to push out. That all needs to be revamped right now, or else you can be perceived as incredibly insensitive and tone deaf right now.
Absolutely. And we have so much technology that allows us to schedule things in advance, which is a blessing. But last week I found myself pulling down weeks and weeks of content and moving it into a place, doing an inventory of what you have to go out, and looking at it and saying, okay, am I saving this for later? Am I changing the message? Is like what you just said, it's critical at this time.
Yeah. It's funny because I personally scrolled back on my social media feed on an Instagram post that I made, and it was, I don't know, maybe 2 days before it got really intense. And I'm up at Tahoe. I'm on this beautiful hike. And I was like, we finished our digital course and we're about to launch it. And I'm able to be out here hiking because of time management and productivity. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I just want to remove it, because it just seems just not the right time. And again, this was before everything hit, but we look back and to your point, it feels like we've lived a year since then. I've got a birthday coming up and I'm pretty sure I'm about to turn 60, though the numbers don't jive. I'm pretty sure. So you're right. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. But really this is the time. And I'm so glad you brought this up, Annie, because we haven't communicated that up until this point through Pivotme Live, is go back and look at that content. This is the time you've got to revamp it. And to an earlier conversation that I had, and I've mentioned this a few times, is that these relationships with your staff, with your clients, they're really built, they're forged. I mean, you really do strengthen them in times of celebration and sorrow. And so if we come out and we're like, hey, now's the time for the vacation, or how about this, or how about that? Some people are struggling. Some people are experiencing some pretty intense emotions, and you can ruin that relationship. You can really damage the relationship you have with someone by not adjusting your message to where they're at today. And I would imagine, to your point, it's a bit of mind reading. How are people going to be feeling in 2 days from now?
And I think it's also, I agree with all of that. And it's also being agile and being able to pivot. As you would
there
say.
It is again. I just want to point out that word is trademarked for all the people that are currently using the word pivot. My lawyer will be into contact. No, I'm just kidding. No.
It is about being agile and also kind of accepting the change. You know, what you just said about, I remember that post because I was so excited to see, that milestone for the course. But I was a history minor in college, and the historian is like, don't take that down, because these moments are so important for us to be able to look back on and say, how much has the world changed? And it also, for me, creates hope, because if I can look back and say, okay, how much has it changed in 3 weeks? Then I know that what's happening right now will also change. And there's a certain kind of grace in knowing that change is always happening.
Sure. One thing that we've said a few times too is that this is just a chapter in our book. This isn't the whole book. Absolutely. And so we can't look at just this one chapter and go, oh my gosh, what happens to my business or to my family or to my community? And there's change. And things won't go back to exactly how they weren't before. They're not meant to. These things are meant to change us, but change isn't always a bad thing. These things can change us in profound ways, in very positive ways. I mean, we've seen so much more humanity, right? We've seen, was it Ira Flato? There was a photo circling around yesterday in the podcast community, and he's doing an NPR piece in his closet. And he's got, of course, business on the top, party on the bottom, right? Like he has no shoes on and he's in his closet and he's recording this piece for NPR. And there's a humanness to it. So I've listened to him through the years, but seeing him in his closet with all the clothes hanging around him and he's barefoot and he's delivering his message, it brought out, this is an opportunity to bring out our humanity. We're seeing where people live. We're seeing their kids and their dogs, and people are doing Zooms with their dog sitting on their lap, or a dog barking in the back, or they can hear someone's yelling at the kids in the back, like, hush it, dad's on the phone, dad's on an important call. And you can hear it coming through, which I love. But it's bringing out our humanness. So we are changing, but I think the change can be really good. If we choose to make it good, we can make this change really good.
I agree.
So opportunities. Let's go back to opportunities. So we talked about, practicing gratitude and things like that. Are there opportunities that you're seeing in your business right now? So are you revisiting your core values or your go-to-market strategy? Are you connecting with past clients and looking at new content? What opportunities are you seeing?
So right now I feel like it's really an opportunity, like for, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but we're spending so much time on our screens right now, receiving content. The most that time, but also being really conscious of what you're putting out there. A lot of what I'm talking to my clients about is, okay, what kind of content can we create that can help people? How can we support our community? How can we give voice to areas that may not be being recognized as much? How can we entertain people? How can we bring some joy? That's where I really feel like there's a huge opportunity right now, while also understanding that a lot of people are creating content. So the more specific and targeted you can be with your communication and the more clear you can get on your audience, the more effective it's going to be at this time. But I would say that's really where my main focus has been as an opportunity, is to say, okay, how do we use this moment to our best and highest abilities?
Sure. And just how you were saying that you communicate to your clients, we've got to communicate consistently, but we've got to communicate in the right ways.
Mm-hmm.
How are you communicating to your clients? How are you communicating to the marketplace? Are you being intentional about being, positive or uplifting? Talk to us about how intentional you are about how you're communicating.
Yes, to positive and uplifting and intentional. So for me, on an individual basis with my clients, I'm reaching out, saying, hi, I'm here. I know you're swamped. Let me know how I can jump in, how I can help, throw something my way. Let me take this off your plate. Mm-hmm. Personally, through social media, it's funny, I'm a content creator, but when I post on social, it's usually pictures of my dog or hiking. So
we've noticed, Annie.
I know. I'm not gonna have any shame about the dog. He's really cute.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just I want to put things out right now that bring me joy, that bring me peace. So when I'm out on a hike, socially responsible, of course, and I see something beautiful, I want to share that right now. I want to enhance the environment that we're in digitally rather than subtracting from it.
Ooh, that was good. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thanks.
No, that's beautiful. We just were able to pull the Facebook feed real quick, so I just want to give a shout out. Julie's on there. Thanks, Julie, for joining us again. Mike Forrester's on there. He's been interviewed earlier in Pivotme Live and also has troubleshooted things. He's been unofficially our IT person, so thank you, Mike Forrester. We've got Bob, Christopher Rivera. Hey, Chris, Carly, and Justin, and Jeff is watching. So thank you guys for joining us today and watching our amazing interview with Annie and how she is supporting her clients during this time, and also giving us some tips on our content and what's going out there and how to make it relevant for this time. And I love what you said about what I'm sharing on social media is things that I'm finding beautiful and things that are uplifting me. And so perhaps it's going to make others feel uplifted and supported during this time. I think there's a lot of things out there that aren't having that effect on people. And we need to counterbalance some of that. And that's in no way saying put our head in the sand. It's being responsible, being socially responsible and supporting our community during this time, but also still finding the beauty in our business, in our clients, in our environment, finding it where we can.
Absolutely.
So, here's the resource time. All right. What resources, are you using right now? So what resources are helping your business? Maybe it's a resource that's helping you personally. You mentioned hiking, but, I know you're a software person too. I know you and I have used Asana together many, many times. I love your Asana skills. Talk to us about some resources that can help businesses in times like this.
So, the first resource I'm protecting is myself, actually, because when I look at my business, I am the asset. If we're thinking about protecting the asset, so I am meditating every morning. I use the Calm app. I love it. It's 10 minutes. Sometimes I want a little more, which that's after like 2 years of using it. So there we go. Having a consistent morning routine, I think, is just so grounding and really important. The other tool I'm using is something called Work Cycles. So it's a spreadsheet, and I can send you a link to drop in the comments, that actually Colin at the Reno Collective introduced me to. And it helps you break down your day into manageable little chunks. So it works for my spreadsheet brain, and it helps me get stuff done right now that I'm using. And Slack has become much more important. Zoom has become much more important. Kind of all these different. I feel like I have like 15 chat windows open at any point in time.
Sure.
So those have all become really important right now.
And were a lot of these things that you were using before, it sounds like, but just maybe they've increased in usage?
Yeah, I've used all of them before, actually. I kind of it's funny. A few years ago, I sent out on a tool hunt to find like the best tools to use to keep me productive. And then I told myself that I wasn't allowed to look anymore because I kept falling down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I try to stay true to that. I use a tool called Todoist for my task management. I like it because it integrates with my Google Calendar. So I can time block on my calendar different tasks and see how my workload looks day to day and figure out kind of where I have availability and flexibility.
Sure. Annie, we really are wired very similarly, aren't we?
I think so.
I mean,
that's why we get along.
Right. I've always admired your spreadsheet skills and the way you could work Asana, but this is, as you're talking, I was like, you're speaking to my heart right now. Okay. Yeah, this all makes sense. It's all making sense to me right now. So you mentioned morning routine. Any other habits that you are doing right now? Actually, the two-part question, any habits that you're doing right now that are helping you in this time? And also, what are you not doing? What are you staying away from right now?
So habits that are helping are responsibly getting outside, being really aware of social distancing. And if I'm not able to get outside, doing some kind of physical activity. So yoga. I actually ordered I started doing dance lessons before this all went down. And so I ordered a collapsible ballet bar. So maybe it'll be here soon. So,
oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to turn the kitchen into a little ballet studio. Oh
my gosh, I love that. Like, I'm just imagining that. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I'm pretty excited for hopefully it's good. I mean, we'll see.
So I was going to ask the dance lessons because you could take that ballet bar and turn it up and have totally different dance lessons. Like it just depends on whether that's horizontal or vertical. I'm just saying there's a lot of options out there, Annie. A lot of options. I hear it's a great workout.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've heard too.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm kind of a lazy kid at heart. Like one of the hardest things is at the end of the day when I'm tired to convince myself to do something like that, but I know that I feel better afterwards. So that's a really important habit to keep up.
Yeah.
So thing to try to quit is really hard because on the one hand, I know I need to be up to date on what's happening in the world so I can create content that's relevant and get a pulse on it. But at the same time, endlessly scrolling is just brutal to my mental well-being. So I'm trying very hard not to endlessly scroll. Sometimes I'm not succeeding, but I'm trying. Downloading TikTok did not help that. That may have been a mistake.
Oh my gosh. That's, I gotta tell you. So, Annie and I work together as well. Ben in our team, he mentioned that on his interview too. He said, well, I got on TikTok and he's like, there I was, the middle-aged guy sipping tea, watching TikTok. And that may not have been the best choice. So
I'm with Ben. It's, I mean, it's so engaging and it's really interesting to see how people are creating content. But I think by the time I get to like the 800th makeup tutorial, I just need to like shut it off.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's funny between TikTok and Zoom. These are the true winners out of the pandemic, and that Tiger show that's on Netflix. I finally broke. I think I'm the only person who's not watching Netflix right now, and I
haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so I finally watched an episode last night. I was like, I got to do it. I felt the social pressure, and I did it. We watched it. We kind of looked at each other, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So I don't know, but maybe there's some huge fans out there. I hear it's like a train wreck that you can't look away from. But I looked away. I won't get on TikTok though. I may not be able to look away. I may not have that kind of power to look away from TikTok.
Yeah. Proceed with caution.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Good to know. Good to know. So I think you mentioned endlessly scrolling on social media, and that has come up a lot. I think, and we've talked about on the Standard Pivotme podcast about having yes, no list and how important it is. And yes, no lists still apply today. They especially apply today. Be very aware of what you're putting on the yes list, even if everybody else is putting it on the yes list. So endlessly streaming news, well, that's going to be directly correlated to high levels of anxiety and depression and a lot of other negative emotions. Like people don't watch the news to feel happy and good about their lives. And so being very aware that we have to stay informed, but we can't be, we can't have that on repeat because it will negatively affect us. It just does. So have your go-to. I've seen a lot of people say, okay, I get 30 minutes in the morning and that's it. Or create some kind of limitation around that, so that you can still be productive for the rest of the day. So, I'm glad that you mentioned that as well. So be aware of your yes, no list, and start putting things on the no list. And sometimes it's going to be people's influence that needs to go on the no list, because it's not serving you right now. So be really aware of, the influence that you have in your life, whether that's news or people or social media or images or even text chains. Make sure that they're still serving you during this time.
And for me, something that just came up when you said the yes list, for me, what's really high on my yes list is local news right now. I mean, as I have so much respect for the journalists in our communities who are working to tell the stories that we need to hear right now. And they need our support more than ever.
Yeah.
And so for me, supporting local journalism, reading local journalism, sharing local journalism is high on the yes list. Especially in Reno, because I know the people who are putting it out, and I know that they're trustworthy, and I know that they have the best interests of our community. So just giving a shout out to the journalists. They're not the enemy. They're doing their jobs and they're doing it well.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I hadn't thought about dialing it in on the local level. It's, truth be told. So I'm glad, Annie, that you reminded me of that, because I hadn't considered that. So thank you for that. I've got to tell you, so Mike Forrester just said, uh-oh, and now I'm down the rabbit hole with TikTok. Be careful. She said, proceed with caution, Mike. It's not good. It's not good.
Or set a timer. You gotta
limit that. It's going to be bad. You're going to watch a dance off. I think I've actually accidentally watched TikTok through Facebook, because I'm watching these dance offs between dads and kids. And then I'm like talking to my husband. I was like, hey, maybe you should do a dance off with our 9-year-old. See, it's happening. It's happening. Be careful. Yeah. Be careful, Mike. And I just saw that Heather joined us, and Wendy and Nicole. Thank you guys. I'm actually going to see them all tomorrow, because several of the people in my masterminds are watching. So we do masterminds on Wednesday, where we get a group of growth-minded individuals all together on a call. Annie knows all about those as well. And we elevate, we educate, we execute, even in times like this, especially in times like this, we show up and be our best self and be intentional about the influence that we have out there in this world. And also find opportunities, make moves right now. While some people are kind of scratching their head going, how do I move? Those people are actually making moves. So shout out to our mastermind, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Okay. So other than staying away from TikTok, we've got no endless scrolls. And I love that you said, look at the local, the journalists that are doing their job right now. What piece of advice would you give? So whether that's words of encouragement, and that could be to a business owner, Annie, that could be to an individual who's watching right now.
So I wrote some notes actually as I was thinking about this question. I think the biggest thing I'm trying to remember is the idea of impermanence, that what we feel right now can feel very permanent and very real and like it's forever, but it's not. So I'm just, and that's in a good way and in a bad way, right? But change is constant. So I'm finding some comfort in the idea that change is constant. Stay present and while staying future focused, which is an interesting balance. I always like to joke that right now I am trying to think about future Annie. So 6-month Annie from me. And right now I'm dealing with whatever past Annie put me up to. So I'm trying to make sure that future Annie doesn't hate past Annie. I don't know if that sounds crazy.
But makes complete sense. Yes.
And I really think, I think we just need to give a lot of love and empathy around us. I really think about this, but I think right now is a moment of collective grief and loss for this idea of what we thought was normal. And everyone deals with grief in a very different way, and goes through the different stages in different ways. So I think that just, being able to look at someone who maybe is annoying the crap out of you right now, or said something dumb on social media, or, made you really angry, and just taking a step back and saying, man, this person's probably hurting the same way I'm hurting. And we can either, feel a commonality in that, or we can not. And I'd rather choose to feel a commonality in that.
Wow, beautifully said. I want to go back to your point earlier, which was amazing, but let me just touch on what you just said. We've talked about this a little bit in the Pivotme lives, which is that people are going to what they know and their coping mechanisms. Well, a lot of their coping mechanisms are no longer available, so they're going to other, and some of them are less productive. And so people go to complaining about politics, or we have someone in our family who has just experienced tremendous loss, and he's complaining about the hospital system right now. And so when asked how he was doing, we're having this conversation, and unfortunately I had to be 6 feet apart, and it's really hard to comfort someone who's grieving from 6 feet, though we were doing our best. And when I asked him how he was doing, he starts complaining about the local hospital, and their intake process was terrible. And he's grieving, and he can't say the thing that he's grieving about. So he was complaining about something else that is easy, right? It's easy to complain that you had poor customer service at the local hospital, that their intake process was bad, that they made them wait too long, that they this, they that. We're all handling this in different ways. And, we've got to have just incredible patience and compassion during this time, because if maybe someone is making this political, maybe someone's complaining that the schools aren't responding fast enough, and what are we supposed to do with our kids, and the distance learning in Nevada starting tomorrow, and there's not enough instruction. And there's partially you're going, oh, why are they complaining about that? Because that's easy, because that's what they know. They go to the things that help them cope. And we're all doing that in some form or another. So just really having a lot of compassion and patience for all of us, because we all are going through some pretty radical changes, and everybody's managing it different. And that's okay. We've just got to have patience right now.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to point out real quick, and then we're almost done on our time, and I've got to be cognizant that I have a 6 and a 9-year-old that might burst through that door here shortly. So just, you're about to see my realness. You're about to see my backstory here in a second. But I love when you said about future Annie doesn't hate current Annie. And so that doesn't sound crazy. That's actually something we talk about in the mastermind many times. We actually do an exercise. I have this whole exercise created about visualizing your future self, right? And so those that are in my masterminds that are watching right now are Nicole and Reet is joining us. Oh, so good to see you. There's a lot of them that are probably going, yes, we know this exercise very well. Eric as well. We do an exercise where we imagine our future self, and we make sure that we're showing up for our future self. And when you said that, I was like, oh, because you know what, Annie, future April's going to hate that current April is stress baking. Like, she ain't going to be happy about that, because I joined a fitness competition at the 1st of January, and I'm not winning it. Okay. So I'm not winning that at all. So when you said that, I was like, oh, future April's going to hate all these stress bacon. Yeah. Anyways, so I think that's a really good point. That's a great point, actually. Just think about what the future you 6 months from now or 12 months from now, what are they going to be glad that you did now? And what are they going to wish that you didn't do now, and act accordingly? I think that's it's such a good piece of information that you just gave us.
And I think also applying a healthy dose of self-love and compassion to that is really, really important too. Over the weekend, I watched Gabby Bernstein, the author of The Universe Has Your Back. She did an anxiety release workshop, and she had some really great points in there about I accept myself for who I am right now, because I think that that's really important. It's this balance, right? Of like, I want to be better, I want to do more, I want to get there. But if you are constantly hating on who you are right now, there's not enough fuel to get to the future state. So it's just a lot of love, I think, and compassion.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point.
Word and outward.
Yeah. So, Annie, you've given us some great tips, some great resources, some great ways to think about our future selves. How do we support you during this time? How do we support you in your business?
Well, you can always go to flanzraich.com. So first 5 letters in my last name, and then the word rights.com. Check out what I'm doing, see if I can be of help to you and your business. If so, I would love to be during this time. If you are interested in, I'm actually hosting a workshop tomorrow morning online with some work from home techniques. So I can send a link over there, but it's free.
Great.
And it's through the NCET organization here. So I can send that over. Yeah, and I think those are 2 great ways. But yeah,
great. That's great. And doing a workshop focused on work from home, that's amazing and so relevant and needed right now, Annie. So we definitely see a difference in the businesses that were already relatively remote and those that were in an office and are now trying to transition over. And there's a bit of scrambling that's going on. So thank you for once again showing up for us and our business community and helping us through this time.
I'm happy to.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Annie. Have an amazing day. I hope to see you out there hiking. I hope to see both your dog's face and maybe your face when you're hiking. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Maybe. All right. I'll think about it for next time.
All right. And enjoy that ballet bar. That's just about the coolest thing I've heard all day today. So that's amazing. I love that you're taking dance lessons and you ordered a ballet bar. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Right. Thank you, Annie. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.